Welcome to Modified Dreams Not Deterred. I am Judith. Struggles, battles, and self talk. So I just came back from the gym. Not necessarily a yearly resolution, but something I try to incorporate every once in a while. Struggles. How many times do you feel like you make 5 steps forward and step back? A lot of times. Believe it or not, you're not alone. Trust and believe you're not alone. Many times in life, the obstacles we face seems to completely catches us off guard or seems like it's a constant recurrence in our lives. So yes, many times you are going to make 5 steps forward and there's going to be another obstacles that arise that take you 10 steps backwards, and you're going to feel like you have never even moved from the situation you were in. You're not alone. There are many people who are encountering the same setbacks that you are experiencing in one way or another. So think of it this way: if you actually made a step forward, then give yourself some credit that at least you tried, at least you did, and learn from those setbacks. Don't let it deter your dream. Modify your next move. Because in this life, you are going to go through something. You're going to have to overcome something. You're going to have to believe in the true core of who you are, because struggles do come. Yes, your battles as well. They seem so repetitive. They sometimes take you to a familiar place, a place that you've been before. Again, have you been through a battle that you thought you have won, and only years later you found yourself in the same situation and you wonder, had I not learned? Did I not already ventured through this process? Why am I going through this again? Lord, have you forgotten about me? Am I truly living in the will that God has purpose for my life? What did I miss? How do I deserve this again? You're not alone. We all experience that in one way or the other at some point in our life. And so that battle becomes so familiar because you've been there before. You have felt that sense of unsurety, that sense of loneliness, that sense of defeat, that sense of pure exhaustion. That, is it really worth me continuing with my dream? Is it really worth me trying to get ahead? Is it really worth? Yes, it is worth it. Trust and believe. Yes, your dreams, your goal, your aspiration, it is worth it, because normally when you're close to the end of your road, that's when breakthrough happens. And if those battles that you're experiencing seems familiar, you have been there before, then were you not delivered before? Maybe not the way you wanted it, but in some sense of the word, that too had passed, so this too will as well. Don't let self talk ruin your purpose. Yes, don't do it. I always say, if you listen to someone's truth, which is not necessarily your truth, long enough, you'll believe it. If you're constantly doubting yourself, thinking you'll never make it, or you're not worth being loved, you're not worth being elevated, you're not worth being chosen, you're not worth accomplishing the dreams that you have inside of you, eventually you start believing those same lies. That's the plan of the devil. It's also an insecurity that all of us humans experience at some point. And I think it's valid, right? Because you're venturing into an unknown. And normally, when I'm venturing into something that's uncomfortable, something that I've never done before, there's a sense of, I wouldn't use the word fear, but more so a sense of the unknown challenges that may come with it. And so my body starts to give me signals, right? It could be a headache, it could be nervousness, it could be my armpits sweating, something. And so I have learned to recognize those signals. So what is your body communicating to you right now? It's actually normal to feel fear. It's normal to feel a sense of insecurity sometimes. It's normal to feel a sense of unsurety. But you can equip yourself. You can think about what is it you're trying to do? Where is it you're trying to venture in? Normally, I'm not a first choice with a lot of things, and I'm okay with that. But I'm always a good choice when I'm choosing for whatever that particular work or input or thought or whatever it is, because I show up as my best self. The truth is, only you know the core of who you are. Only you know your strength. Only you know your true worth and your true uniqueness. And so if your self-taught or your self-talk is negativity, unsurety, being too hard on yourself, it doesn't lift you up. It doesn't motivate you. I would say keep trying. Keep trying. Keep trying. Eventually, you will overcome this obstacle and it will propel you to something greater. You'll be able to help someone else who is walking a similar path. I remember in my early 20s, I had to do an appendectomy. And I remember being in so much pain, being so scared, and I had to sign a consent to go through a procedure. And I remember how I felt in the operating room. I remember how I felt after. And through my life, I've carried a scar, a permanent scar, that reminds me of that battle. It reminds me of that battle because for 4 hours, I was at the will of doctors to solve an issue that they themselves were unsure about. My life was in their hands, but my faith was in God's hand. And so every time I see that scar, I have never been self conscious about it. I was angry, yes, when I recovered and I realized the scar. I was upset, but I was just thankful to be alive because I know purpose was still within me. And every time I see that scar, I remember that only the power of God can bring you through a crisis and you're still able to stand. Many of us have different scars. Many of you have different scars. Is your scar a permanent scar on your body? Maybe you have keloid, something that many African Americans struggle with, right? Or Caribbean people as well. Or, in other words, dark skin people do struggle with keloid. And if you're fortunate enough to have never experienced that, then bless your heart, because it's the most annoying process to deal with. But going back to what I was saying, what are the scars you're carrying? Are you carrying physical scars that make you so self-conscious about them? Many times the assumption that you think someone is thinking when they look at your scars is not always judgmental. Sometimes it's a sense of curiosity. Share your testimony because you will encounter someone else in your life that you can motivate. Is the scars that you are carrying emotional scars? That too. If you have gone through a terrible divorce, through that storm, you can't see the future because no one truly will understand your pain. The sense of loneliness, the feeling of death. Stay in that, stay in that, stay in that. Embrace those emotions when you're through your pain. So now you're on the other side and you have this emotional scar. Recover from it because your next chapter will be your best chapter. Your next chapter will be a greater chapter because many times we want to get to a certain place in our lives and we have not yet been molded to fully be present. And I know it's like so cliche, but when I think about my personal life and the things that I have had to overcome in my 20s, and as I got older, I realized that had I not gone through those battles, had I not gone through those moments in life where I hit the lowest low, where only God understood how I was feeling, the hopelessness in wanting a dream to be realized and wanting to be on the other side and wanting your goals and your aspiration to take flight. And I had to really build up my faith. I had to make sacrifices. That means instead of getting my hair done or my nails done or going partying, I had to decide to dedicate myself to school, to dedicate myself to having some sense of foundation with creating a relationship with God. And so, for many of you who are experiencing some battles right now, I would say feel those emotions. Find the resources you need. Do you need to go to therapy? Do you have a confidant? Do you have somebody you can kind of be vulnerable with? Because you are going to meet someone else along the way that you can testify to. Because I feel like when someone has walked a particular walk, when you have experienced a certain pain, if you have experienced loss, the loss of a child, the loss of a sibling or something, and someone else is going through it, and you can say, hey, this was my experience, though it may not be your experience, I can have a deep sense of empathy. But when you have not experienced anything, or you have not experienced that pain that that person is going through, it is hard for that person to truly accept that you can understand the pain they're feeling, because everyone goes through this life in a different way as it relates to battles. Just remember that your battles and your mistake does not define you. It refines you. Yes, your battles and your mistakes does not define you. Does not define you. It refines you. So keep believing. Keep believing that things are possible. Keep holding on. If you're at the end of your journey, just know that it gets better. There is a ray of sunshine many times when you feel like this is it. I can't do it anymore. There's a breakthrough around the corner, because I do believe in faith, and whatever it is you believe in, like I believe in our Lord Jesus Christ, you know what I'm saying? I believe that the creator of this world have never forsaken us. There's some expectation, of course, of how we need to live our lives in alignment with what he has set forth for an expectation of how we live our life, but daily we are learning to perfect that expectation. And so, like I said, your battles, your struggles, your mistake, it doesn't define you, it refines you. So keep hoping, keep believing. Don't stop reaching for your dreams. Don't stop going forward. Don't stop trying. There's a saying in Jamaica, it says, "When a dead, no call it dopey." So if you're not dead, there's still possibilities for you. Remember, you do not have to give up on your dream. You do not have to deter your dream. You can modify them.